Ukraine and its Western allies are preparing a rapid response plan to counter any Russian violations of a future ceasefire, potentially escalating from diplomatic warnings to military action within 24 hours. Despite renewed peace talks and U.S. President Donald Trump's optimism, Russian airstrikes have continued, heavily damaging Ukraine's energy infrastructure and leaving thousands in Kyiv without heating. Trump has claimed a new U.S.-India trade deal could help end the war by reducing India's reliance on Russian oil. Meanwhile, debate continues over Russia's ban from international sports and the shape of a possible peace settlement. Ukraine and its Western partners are preparing a coordinated response framework for any future ceasefire violations by Russia, according to people familiar with ongoing discussions. Under the proposed arrangement, any breach by Moscow would trigger a graduated series of actions designed to escalate pressure while preserving diplomatic channels at the outset. The first step would involve issuing a formal diplomatic warning to Russia, making clear that its actions had violated the terms of the ceasefire. If the violations continued, Ukrainian forces would be authorized to respond militarily in a proportional manner. Should those measures fail to halt the infractions, members of the so-called Coalition of the Willing would intervene, followed, if necessary, by direct military action from the United States. Officials briefed on the talks say the entire response mechanism could be activated within 24 hours of a confirmed breach, reflecting a determination among Kyiv and its allies to prevent drawn-out ambiguity or hesitation. These discussions are unfolding as diplomatic efforts to end the war intensify. U.S. President Donald Trump has expressed optimism ahead of renewed trilateral peace talks involving the United States, Ukraine, and Russia, scheduled to resume on Wednesday in Abu Dhabi. Trump said he was expecting good news, claiming progress was being made with both Kyiv and Moscow. He added that for the first time since his return to office, he felt confident that negotiations were moving in a positive direction. Despite this upbeat rhetoric, the reality on the ground has remained grim, with Russian air attacks continuing into the week. Explosions were reported across Kyiv on Monday night and into Tuesday morning, following what had been described as a brief pause in strikes after Trump publicly urged restraint. Emergency power cuts were imposed across parts of the Ukrainian capital after Russian forces once again targeted energy infrastructure, including power plants, critical to heating and electricity supplies. City officials said the damage left thousands of residents without heating during freezing conditions, underscoring the vulnerability of civilian infrastructure nearly 4 years into the conflict. Against this backdrop of ongoing violence, Trump has also linked developments in the war to a new trade agreement between the United States and India. The U.S. president claimed that a recently signed deal with New Delhi would help bring the war in Ukraine to an end, arguing that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi had agreed to stop buying Russian oil. Under the agreement, Trump said the United States would lower tariffs on Indian goods to 18% from 25%, while India would reduce its import taxes on U.S. goods to zero and commit to purchasing $500 billion worth of American products. In a post on his Truth Social platform, Trump said the deal would help end the war in Ukraine, which he described as claiming thousands of lives each week. India has significantly increased its imports of discounted Russian oil since much of the world moved to isolate Moscow following the 2022 invasion. Whether New Delhi will
Kyiv's mayor, Vitaly Klitschko, said that residents in 1,170 apartment buildings were left without heating following the overnight strikes. Russian forces also attacked Kharkiv, Ukraine's second-largest city, as well as other major urban centers in the early hours of the morning. Fires were reported at multiple sites, and officials confirmed that at least 4 people were injured in Kyiv and Kharkiv combined. The attacks dealt fresh blows to Ukraine's already strained energy system, which has been repeatedly targeted since the start of the full-scale invasion. Fully cut off those purchases remains unclear, and analysts caution that global energy markets and geopolitical alignments make such a shift complex and politically sensitive. The war has also continued to reverberate through the world of sport, reigniting debate.
Kim, who headed the Mykolaiv branch of Zelensky's Servant of the People Party during the 2019 elections and was appointed regional governor in November 2020, has emerged as a prominent voice in Ukrainian politics. He told The Independent that any agreement must account for the